Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
What's up, everybody? You are watching / listening to the Command Zone podcast. I am one of your hosts today, Jimmy Wong, and I'm joined by...
Jamie Block.
Hooray.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Jamie. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
We should say each other's names as much as possible during the set review, right, Jamie?
Yes, Jimmy.
That's a great idea. Oh, man. I've been confused for a lot of Jamies in my life growing up.
And I've turned my head for a lot of times people are talking to you.
Or Johnny's. Dude, it's all the same. Anyway, today we're talking about the Brothers War Transformers cards. This time around, we're talking about the evil Decepticons. They're evil, right?
Yes.
Don't really follow too much on the lore, and I was looking through them. I was like, these guys look like they could be good guys, too. Don't confuse them. So these are cool, non-standard legal, but they are legal in Legacy, Vintage, and Commander. There are 7 of them, I believe, that are Decepticons. They've got this cool convert mechanic where there are 2 sides to them, and we're going to talk about them as your commander. Now, if you want to hear about the Autobots, you can go to the prior episode 501 and check it out, because there are a lot of really cool cards there as well, both for the 99 and to be your commander. Now, here's the thing. If you want to get any of these cards, you could be a sucker and just open booster packs. No. Buy singles, and buy singles at cardkingdom.com/command. And should you want to buy sealed product, they got you covered too. In fact, they have a massive inventory, which is one of the reasons that we love Card Kingdom so much. And the convenience factor of being able to put all the cards you want in a deck into a single cart, and then just hitting checkout and not getting 20 different envelopes from 20 different places is honestly something that I really do cherish in this day and age, because 1, reduces waste, but also you're supporting us at the same time. You're getting a great selection of cards at all the different types of quality too. You can choose and make a budget build of something. When I built my Paco and Haldan deck a long time ago, I used cardkingdom.com/command, got to me quickly, and it was obviously in the exact condition I wanted it. So check it out, support the show while you're doing so, and get the cards you want, and you're going to get anyway. Our other sponsor is ULTRAPRO. You can go to ultrapro.com/command, and you can buy a whole ton of product there as well. You got binders, deck boxes, sleeves, playmats, limited edition stuff, as well as stuff from like way back in the past. And you can get crazy deals sometimes, as long as you just sort of pay attention to the website or get on their newsletter. But if you use ultrapro.com/command, that's also our affiliate link there. You can also just go buy ULTRAPRO product in your stores. We do love them quite a bit. I still use the same Eclipse sleeves from 3 years ago to draft with, and they hold up. They're great shuffle feel, and it's exactly what I need. Finally, last way to support the show is directly at patreon.com/commandzone. We love our patrons. We have a Discord exclusively for Patreon that Josh and I are always on, talking and answering questions and talking to people in the community, as well as just sharing our favorite moments from game nights or getting deck help from a bunch of our amazing, awesome members and our moderation team there. We also shout out one lucky patron every single episode. So this episode is dedicated to Dallas Roberts. Dallas. You rock. Hey, that's true. Jamie and Jimmy both think you rock.
Yes.
Josh, I'll have to ask him later and see what he's up to.
But again, Jimmy and Jamie think you do.
Yeah, both of us do. Okay, time to talk about the Decepticons. Jimmy's on one side, Jamie's on the other side of the card. So these are only going to come in set and collector booster packs from the Brothers War, and they're available in 2 different styles. There's a regular version and a shattered glass version, and the shattered glass version, of course, can only be opened in collector's boosters, so again, buy singles, easier way to get it. And if you want to know how the Transformers work, well, you can just go to the prior episode, which is CZ0501, to talk about the Transformers and the Autobots. And in the beginning, is it you in the episode?
No, it's Jordan and Josh.
Cool. You get to hear Jordan and Josh. Wow, there are a lot of J's going on, aren't there?
Yeah, we're all J's. We're J's all the way down.
J's all the way down for the Transformers cards. And they'll talk about how it works, all the low rules things. We're just going to get right into it, because who doesn't love talking about Magic cards? Jamie, can you lead us off and tell us what Megatron does on the front side of its card?
Yes, the front side is Megatron Tyrant. It costs 3 and a Mardu, so 3 red, white, black. It's a 7/5. It says your opponents can't cast spells during combat, and at the beginning of your post-combat man phase, you may convert Megatron. If you do, add a colorless mana for each 1 life your opponents have lost this turn.
Okay, and the front side also has, as you mentioned, more than meets the eye. Again, you can cast the card on its converted side for a lesser amount, in this case just 1 in Mardu. And on the backside, it's Megatron Destructive Force. It's a tank. Legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 4/5 that says Living Metal. And all of the cards, by the way, have Living Metal on the converted side that says, as long as it's your turn, this vehicle is also a creature. And it says, whenever Megatron attacks, you may sacrifice another artifact. When you do, Megatron deals damage equal to the sacrifice artifact's mana value to target creature. If excess damage will be dealt to that creature this way, instead that damage is dealt to that creature's controller, and you convert Megatron. So this is a May ability. You don't have to do it, but basically sack an artifact. What's the mana value of it? Deal that to a creature. If excess damage is dealt, that goes to the creature's controller, kind of like trample.
Yeah.
Did they get it right?
Yes.
Hooray. So Megatron's pretty cool. This is definitely, I think, one of the most powerful of all of the Transformer cards, specifically as that front side reminds me of Belby, Corrupted Observer.
Yeah, it's sort of Belby meets Neheb.
Yeah.
Is obviously, as you well know, a very powerful effect.
Yeah, and a whole ton of mana you can gain by just basically making your players lose a bunch of life. So let's get into some synergy time. You're sacrificing artifacts on the backside. So all of the recursion cards like Scrap Trawler or Mirror Retriever, you can probably use those to have some kind of recursion loops. And red obviously opens you up to all of the artifact trickery. We'll mention this a couple of times because all these are artifacts. Goblin Welder and Goblin Engineer are ways to get artifacts from your graveyard onto the battlefield and vice versa.
Yep. Duretti, Scrap Savant, fell into the third path. Great ways if you have the artifact in your graveyard, either get a copy of it or get it back. You are going to have expendable artifacts anyway, so you'll have something to sacrifice to Duretti.
Yep, good point. And Enrikir the Traveler is a new Warhammer card. I love talking about the new Warhammer cards. This is the one I played on game nights, and it says whenever Enrikir attacks, you can cast an artifact spell from your hand or graveyard by paying a life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So obviously you're going to have a bunch of big artifacts because you want to sack them for that big time damage. And then there's some cool ways that you put on here that I thought were great ways to get artifacts into the graveyard already.
Yeah, Angel of the Ruins is great. Just you can plain cycle it for 2 if in the early game that's what you need. And then, if you get it back through recursion, or if it's late game and you just manage to cast it, it is a 7 mana artifact to be sacrificing. That's going to be enough to deal excess damage and transform Megatron, and that's what you want to be doing.
Yep, and you also get to exile 2 artifacts or enchantments when it enters the battlefield. Rachel Weeks destroyed us with that.
Yes, all of us.
Yeah. There's also Ruin Grinder, which is this cool 6 mana menace 7/4 artifact creature. When it dies, each player may discard their hand and draw 7 cards. So it's a wheel effect. We all like those. It's also a May wheel effect, so people won't get angry at you as much.
Yeah.
And it also has mountain cycling, so the same thing as Angel of the Ruins.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the backside of Megatron. You want to be sacrificing stuff, putting it into the graveyard. Now, if we want to talk about the front side, when you hurt everyone and you gain 1 life for each 1 life your opponent's lost this turn, you can hit multiple players. And then it does this thing called a multiplier. And Jamie, this first card is now quickly becoming one of my new favorite cards.
Yeah, it's been among my favorites for a long time. It's Tectonic Giant. It's just a 4-mana 3/4, but when it attacks, you can deal 3 damage to each opponent. You can also impulse draw some cards, but in this deck, that is 9 mana at least before any other damage, any combat damage. That's a lot.
That is a lot. You play this for 4 mana, and then the next turn you play Megatron for 6. Let's say you have some ramp, 5 or 6. You swing with this thing, you gain 9 mana. Neheb is very good, and anytime you can do damage to multiple people is when you really add up the mana and get that huge boost. Same with like Crackling Doom, which is pretty cool, deals 2 damage to each opponent. So for 3 mana, you get 6 on the other side. And then Chandra, Torch of Defiance, also does a similar thing and just sits there as a value engine. And all of these can be played with either the turn that you get Megatron down if you have a bunch of mana, but Crackling Doom is pretty cheap. Because it's loss of life, there's ways to just get game-winning mana in a single turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Gray Merchant is just,
Gary.
Even if you don't have that many black pips out, it's just going to be doing enough. You're almost certainly going to be getting at least 9 because you should not be playing this unless you already have your commander out. So that's 3 right there.
Yeah,
that's a ton.
3 times 3, 9, that's crazy. Even if there are only 2 players left, you're still getting 6.
Yeah.
And you'll probably have more black pips out there at that point too.
And then Heartless Hidetsugu is just a great, making all your opponents lose half their life. That gives you truly a game-winning amount of mana.
Yeah, if you ever see this in the Neheb deck, you just got to get rid of it instantly. It's definitely the thing that will murder everyone. You probably do play Neheb in this deck too, because if your commander's not out, but you have all these high-cost things and ways to get benefits off it, you still want to have that ability.
Yeah.
By the way, you have to remove Heartless Hidetsugu if it hits the battlefield immediately. You have to do it. You cannot let that thing live. You will die.
Just do it.
Just do it. But make someone else do it before you have to.
Of course.
Okay, so high mana value fodder. The backside, we're looking for cards that Megatron wants to sacrifice. Spine of Ishsaw is a classic. It's a 7-drop. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target permanent. And then when it's put into the graveyard, you can actually return it to its owner's hand. So hooray, you can play it again.
Yeah, I mean, that's excellent. You know, if you have the backside of Megatron, if that's the one that it's on as you start your turn, you sacrifice that, it flips to the front. Then after combat, you flip it back to the back.
Oh boy.
You use the mana that you just got to recast
play.
the Spine of Ishsaw.
Yeah.
You can really be just taking down permanents every turn.
Yep. There's also a bunch of artifacts that cost way less. So it's great because obviously you don't want to end up with like 10 drops in your deck that you can never cast if you draw them early. So you've got Metalwork Colossus, an Ancient Stone Idol, and same as Scion of Draco. It's an 11-drop, 10-drop, and a 12-drop. But more often, it's closer to like 4 and 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5, Scion of Draco is always going to be 6, or at least if you've gotten your basic types, it's always going to be 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've recently seen a few games where Metalwork Colossus is 0.
Wow. So it costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value added up among non-creature artifacts you control.
Yeah, if you have a few mana rocks, and if one of those mana rocks is like Thran Dynamo or Gilded Lotus, then you're just... that alone almost pays for it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Ancient Stone Idol is a flash creature that has attacking. That card costs 1 less for each attacking creature, and it's got trample. And then when it dies, you make another big one, 6/12.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Phyrexian Triniform. I've yet to see someone on-card this out of their graveyard, but I feel like when it happens, it's game over. This is just a big card to have, great to sacrifice, because it also creates 3/3 colorless Golem artifact creature tokens when it dies.
Yep.
Pretty fun. Have a party. Now, again, all this mana, how are you going to end the game, Jamie?
You are going to use X spells. You don't have to use X spells, but boy, is it going to be efficient if you do. Exsanguinate, of course, a classic. Torment of Hailfire, the other. Those are really the two big X spells in black these days. You've got other ones in red, like Jaya's Immolating Inferno, which can hit all 3 opponents. Comet Storm, which slightly less efficient with your mana, but if you have a ton, you don't care.
Yeah.
Can also hit all 3 opponents.
For like 3 extra mana. It may as well read 3 X red.
Yeah.
And
then Damnable Pact, you probably are casting this on yourself sort of, 7 times out of 10.
But you could kill someone with it.
Yeah, every so often, you just want to kill someone with it, and it can.
Yeah, it's X black sorcery. Target player draws X card and loses X life. X cards.
Yeah.
Plural. I think the last thing, too, is now that you have a lot of mana or you don't have a lot of mana, you would also want to play ways to cheat that mana. So Perforos, Bronze Blooded, and Sneak Attack are red sort of classic ways of getting creatures out for very, very cheap. And you don't care if they die for the most part if they're artifact creatures because you'll get them back any number of other ways. Yada, yada.
Yeah, if your turn 4 is play the backside of Megatron and turn 5 is Sneak Attack and then sneak out a 12-drop or something.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
One cool thing because of the living metal text, Megatron is not a creature when it's not your turn on the backside. So we can play another new Warhammer card. It's Blood for the Blood God, which is 8 black, red instant, costs 1 less to cast for each creature that died this turn. And then you discard your hand and draw 8 cards. And then Blood for the Blood God deals 8 damage to each opponent. And then you exile the spell. But it's an instant, so it's pretty cool.
It is. And if you can somehow manage to cast the spell on your own turn and keep Megatron out, you've made him indestructible or something like that.
Yeah.
Then dealing all that damage to your opponents, that's just another spell in the deck that can get you a ton of mana in your post-combat man phase.
Yep. Good times. All right, so that kind of covers Megatron. Pretty powerful. Obviously, just the straight up, give me all the mana in the world is definitely where it gets broken.
Yeah, any commander that can give you 30, 40 mana, you're going to be able to win the game.
It does cost 6 mana to get out. It's kind of remove on sight. It's also an artifact, so you can point a lot of different things at it to kill it. So don't let this happen like we let a melded Mishra happen to us multiple times.
Oh, many times.
Yeah, you don't want cards to turn upside down or the other way around, turns out. Okay, next up we have Soundwave, Sonic Spy. And on the back, it's Soundwave Superior Captain. So, Jamie, let's hear the front side.
Sure. The front is a 1 and an Esper, so 4 total, for a 5/4 artifact creature robot. Whenever 1 or more creature tokens you control deal combat damage to a player, exile target instant or sorcery card with mana value equal to the damage dealt from their graveyard. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. If you do, convert Soundwave. And then it has more than meets the eye for 2 in an Esper, so 5 total. You can cast it on the backside.
Okay, so we'll get back to the front side in just a second. Let's just read the backside so we get both in our brains. So much to keep track of. Soundwave Superior Captain looks like a radio.
Yes, some sort of boombox device, not a vehicle, so it doesn't have living metal or anything like that.
Oh, that's right, actually.
It's just an object sitting on a park bench or something.
Yeah, it's just chilling. It looks like, it is at a park bench or something. Or it could be like a really big SNES cartridge.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
All right, this is Soundwave Superior Captain, a legendary artifact. Whenever you cast a spell with an odd mana value, convert Soundwave. If you do, create Ravage, a legendary 3/3 black robot artifact creature token with menace and death touch. And then whenever you cast a spell with an even mana value, convert Soundwave. And then this time you don't create the Ravage, you create Laserbeak instead, which is a 2/2 robot artifact creature token with flying and hexproof. So these are creature tokens, which the front side of Soundwave cares about, and both of them have evasion. One's got menace and death touch, and the other's got flying and hexproof.
Right, so hopefully they're going to get through, and then it's going to trigger the front side, and you're going to get to cast something from your opponent's graveyard. A very important thing about this card is the front side, it says equal to the mana value of that spell, not equal to or less than.
Yeah, so the amount of combat damage you do if you have a 5-drop you want to cast in your graveyard, you have to deal, or their graveyard, you have to deal 5 damage exactly.
Yes, no more, no less. A lot of other cards, it would say equal to or less than. This one, I don't know if it's sort of a lore thing of sound frequencies. You need to match the frequency exactly. That was my best guess, but it's definitely a hoop to jump through that you have to hit an exact number.
And not just that, you're casting it out of other people's graveyards.
Yeah, so
there has to be the person you're attacking too.
Yeah.
So at first glance, this seems like a sweet card, Jamie, but I think this card secretly is not that great because it requires a lot of setup to get good.
I agree with you. I think it is an interesting in the 99 card for some other commanders, one of which is the first card that we are going to talk about. Warhammer brought us a lot of fun cards for token strategies, including Marneus Calgar, who is sort of the new best Esper tokens commander. Yes. A big double striking body. You draw a card whenever you make a token. He makes tokens. That's a thing that if you're building a Soundwave deck, you're just going to be making a lot of tokens anyway, and he can give you some of them.
Yeah, so the problem, again, if you have Marneus Calgar makes 2/2s, what if you want to cast a 1-drop? Uh-oh, you're going to have to be able to deal 1 damage. So that is a big thing to think about, too. But another card from Warhammer, Vanguard Suppressor, this has Squad on it, so you just pay 2 mana in additional time, as many times as you want when it comes in, same as Ultramarines Honor Guard, and they will give you basically token creatures that will then work with Soundwave.
Yeah, Ultramarines Honor Guard, it's an Anthem effect, so that one especially can get in the way with Soundwave's mechanic. If you have an Anthem, you can never have a 1/1, so it can just make it so hard to hit an exact number. And again, that's assuming that your opponent doesn't have removal for just one of your tokens, because they're probably going to know what in their graveyard you're going for.
Yeah, that's the nightmare scenario. I look at your graveyard, Jamie, I'm like, I really like that, let's say, divination. So I hit you with a 1-drop and a 1/1 and a 2/2, and you can't block it. They're both, let's say, flyers. And you go, okay, I'll remove the 1/1. And if there's nothing in your graveyard with 2 mana value or equal exactly 2 mana values in instant or sorcery, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
That sucks.
It does.
It's really easy to get around this because you're completely telegraphing what you're doing.
Yeah, at the very least, it triggers per player. So, if you were in the dream scenario where all 3 of your opponents have something that you want in their graveyards, and you can sort of launch an attack,
it out.
Yeah, then hopefully you're going to get at least one of them, but that's a very high ceiling to reach for.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's say everyone has something in their graveyard that you want. You can send the exact amount out there. It's tough because you can't. Maybe you can I don't know, you can't even play reconnaissance or something to pull creatures out of combat because they'll just remove something afterward, right? So it's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But, trying to make it work, what you want is you want evasive tokens. You sort of want small tokens with 1 power. So that you
want
a
lot of 1/1s, I think.
So Bitter Blossom is just a great way to get 1/1 flyers. Shark Typhoon, just a fun card to get, bigger, often evasive tokens. Ink Shield, just a fantastic card to be running in any deck that can run it.
Yep.
But the tokens it makes are extra relevant in this strategy.
Shark Typhoon, you can also cycle it and then creates an XX, which is kind of cool.
That's true.
If you do, however, cast on its front side, then it's going to trigger off the instants and sorceries you make, and then you'll basically make a copy, like a 3/3 that's for the 3-drop you just got. So I feel like the most common numbers are going to be between, 1 and 4, maybe 5.
Yeah, just, as the format gets faster and faster, it feels like having a 5/5 token these days in a Soundwave deck is almost a downside.
Yeah, how often are you going to be able to pair that up with something unless someone has a crazy spell in their graveyard? And a lot of times those spells actually don't sit in graveyards because they're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Curiosity Crafter is also pretty good in this deck in terms of just giving some extra value to yourself.
Yeah, you want to hit with tokens anyway. Even Wind Guide is a card. It specifically gives tokens evasion. Hopefully they all have evasion anyway, but if you have a few cards in there where they don't, that's a good way to give it to them.
And then the last token matters card, obviously, in these colors is Anointed Procession. Not that actually easy to get, unfortunately. Please reprint it.
Yes.
Okay, so we've talked about the downsides of this card, but let's just say we are living Dreamland. We got to get stuff into our opponent's graveyards. Sounds like milling is a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah, you definitely want to be milling a ton. Mind Crank is a pretty good tool to do that because this deck is also about pushing damage through so that your opponents are going to be losing life.
And they mill that many cards.
Alter the Brood is great. Every time you have a permanent enter the battlefield, each of your opponents has to mill a card. If you're making tokens, you should be having a lot of permanents enter the battlefield each turn.
Yeah, I can't believe that's just a 1-drop.
Yeah, it's just a 1-drop. It's a really good rate for just any mill deck that is more permanent based.
Yeah, it counts lands, by the way. So it counts lands, creature tokens, doesn't care about non-token. Court of Cunning is one that is going to create the monarchy. And I actually like this because if at the beginning of your upkeep, any number of target players each mills 2 cards, and if you're the monarch, they instead mill 10 cards. So that's big time if you keep the monarchy. But you're also got all these little flyers, creatures you can put in front of other blockers. I feel like this is one of the few decks that really can hold its own in terms of having blockers out there to keep the monarchy.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a card where you almost always lose the monarchy, but in this deck, you might keep it.
Yeah, it also puts opponents in a weird spot if they want to like swing at you, because then they don't have good blockers on the way back when you might mill them and then smack them with one of their spells.
Consuming Aberration, a great way to do sort of big chunks of mill at once. And then Mesmeric Orb.
This one mills yourself quite a bit.
It mills everyone quite a bit. It is one of the more annoying, oh god, now I have to do counting cards that you can have on a table.
I don't know, I kind of love it. It's a 2-mana artifact. Whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card. So all your lands untapping, all your artifacts, creatures, whatever, you're going to mill a card for each of them.
Yep, all your tokens.
Heck yeah. Okay, now they're casting spells, and we have instants and sorceries in their graveyard. We want to also get extra benefit off those spells. Murmuring Mystic, this is a limited all-star. It's a 3 and a blue. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you create a 1/1 bluebird illusion creature token with flying. Yay!
Yeah. Dika Fractal Theorist, 4 and a blue, so 5 total for a 3/3. Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy a spell, you get an XX, where X is the mana value of that spell. And it can make some of your creature tokens unblockable. It's not a great rate to do that. It costs 4 mana to do that, but in this deck especially, sometimes that's what you're going to need.
Sometimes you need it. Yeah, you're actually copying the spell out of their graveyard. You are not casting it. You may cast the copy.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where you are copying the card and then casting it as a spell. So I think that you're not getting 2 Dika
triggers.
You're still getting just the one, but
when you cast
it does work.
Specifically. Well, that's a lot of language. Of the copy really adds a little twist in there. But obviously they're meant to work because we introduced Magecraft in Strixhaven.
Yeah.
Tower and Sky Summoner also gives you 2/2s. Monastery Mentors seems actually kind of bad because because all the monk tokens you make with Monastery Mentor have prowess, and if you cast a non-creature spell, they get +1/+1. So it could be good, but it also makes your math a little harder if you do something in combat.
Yeah.
If someone does something, you're like, oh, I got to counter that. I got to stop that. Uh-oh, your Monastery Mentor tokens just grew.
Yeah, I guess like the slight counterpoint to that is sometimes your opponents could think, oh, they don't have enough power to cast the card that they're going for in my graveyard, and then surprise, prowess.
Surprise, prowess. It was on the card. Were they truly surprised? Probably. Scarab God is great if you have ways to get creature tokens out of other people's graveyards, which this card does. And so now you get to make that, and it counts as the tokens. Thopter Spy Network gives you 1/1s, also draws you cards actually very similar to Curiosity Crafter. Yeah, a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, Exaxes. Okay. So I think it is really tough. So I think the main thing here is that you have to make stacking 1/1s your priority to guaranteed cast things.
Yeah, 1/1s with flying, or just if you have ways to make them unblockable, but having a lot of 1-power creatures, if you really are focusing on, and if you're building a Soundwave deck, it feels like you should be focusing on the part where you get to cast stuff.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. So yeah, Thopter Spy Network, a great way to just have 1/1s in the air, and Sharding Sphinx, a very good way to just have a lot of 1/1s in the air. That card just snowballs insanely.
Yeah, in your commander as well as an artifact creature.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it for Forgot the name already.
Soundwave.
Soundwave. Yeah, I like the Soundwave idea that has to match the frequency.
I hope that's what it is, because otherwise it just feels like a pain.
Yeah, it's definitely a handicap on the card, for
Yeah.
sure. I think, would it be too powerful if it was equal to or below in terms of the mana value? Because I think so.
I don't think so, because it has to be tokens that hit. If it were just
okay.
at all, then yes, I think it would. But the fact
As
that
I said, adults. If it was just adults that hit.
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's move on to the next one. It's Starscream, power hungry.
Yep, the front side, it is Starscream, 3 and a black for a 2/3 flying. Whenever you draw a card, if you are the monarch, target opponent loses 2 life. And then whenever one or more creatures deal combat to you, thus taking the monarchy, you convert Starscream. Or, as with all of these, you can cast it on the back with more than meets the eye for 2 and a black.
And it's Starscream Seeker Leader, which is a 2/3 with living metal. So as long as it's your turn, this vehicle is also a creature. Flying Menace Haste. When Starscream deals combat damage to a player, if there is no monarch, that player becomes the monarch. And then whenever you become the monarch, convert Starscream. What?
Yeah, the back just kind of seems like you need to introduce the monarchy to the game somehow.
But you're giving it to someone else.
You're giving it to someone else. In theory, you know, it's someone that you were able to hit the first time. Hopefully you'll be able to hit them again. And
Turn later in mono black, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about why this card still can be pretty good in mono black and what you're trying to do here. For the deck.
Once you get there, once you are the monarch and you have Starscream back on its front side, if you can draw a ton of cards in your turn, you can kill a player.
Right.
Just making someone lose 2 life for every card you draw, a thing that you should be wanting to do anyway, is just a very powerful effect. All of just the black card draw spells from sort of the draw 2, lose 2s in Night's Whisper up to the draw 3, lose 3s in Ambition's Cost, those are all fine. Those were all playable anyway. Now they're going to be making people lose big chunks of life.
Yeah, so now you have Peer into the Abyss for the big win cards. So you get Starscream out, you get the Monarch. I mean, there are other ways to get the Monarch, by the way. But you have it, and you're on the front side. 4 black, 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 sorcery. Target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and loses half their life, round up each time. So you do this to yourself, and you make, you know, let's say 40 triggers of 2 loss of 2 life. That'll kill people.
Yeah, that should hopefully kill exactly 2 people.
Necrologia, I like this. 3 black, black, cast it only during your end step. As an additional cost, you can pay X life, draw X cards.
Yep, as long as you have at least double someone else's life and the cards in your library to do it, then
Yeah.
you should absolutely be able to kill a player with this. It's instant speed, but it's the end of your own turn only. It's an interesting timing restriction. This is definitely a card that sort of I don't think I'd even heard of until Jordan actually was playing it against me. And now all of a sudden it keeps making it onto deck lists that I'm building.
Yeah, draw X cards is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And should you have a card like Villainous Broker of Blood out, whenever you lose life, draw that many cards, and you can also pay a black to pay 2 life to give a creature -1/-1 till end of turn. When you cast Necrologia plus Villainous, then you're drawing so many cards, basically, and losing life, and hopefully staying just alive enough.
Yeah, you should also, I believe, be able to time this with the Monarchy, such that if you get hit, and thus the Monarch is being taken from you, you can stack it, so that you draw the cards before you lose the Monarchy. So your commander
the
will
Monarchy
trigger.
coming back is a trigger that
Yeah,
comes back.
I think you can do that all in the correct order. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. Maybe the editors will help search for it. If you're still hearing us talk about it, then you can definitely do it.
Yep.
And then I like Alhamrat's Archive a lot. Should you put life gain in the mono black deck, it's great because it's going to double it. But it's also pretty good because if you draw a card, except for the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead.
Yep.
So I like the general, like, cool, this makes sense what we're going for here.
Yeah. Now that we're down to sort of monocolor ones, we are being guided in a more simple direction.
Yeah, I would say Starscream as well as Megatron have a lot of things you can do in a lot of colors.
Yeah. So in this deck, you really want to be the Monarch. You know, the front side of your commander basically doesn't do anything unless you are. So sometimes maybe you're not going to be able to get through for damage as your way of taking it back. So some ways to get it back instantly are cards like Custody Lich. It's a 5-mana creature. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. And whenever you become the Monarch, target player sacrifices a creature.
Oh man, this card is so good.
Yeah. This seems like a deck that is probably the Monarch is going to move around a bit. People definitely don't want you to have it.
Right.
So every time you take it back, this is a great card to have out there. Then
Court of Ambition. Yeah, so we did the Court of Cunning, I think was the blue one. There's 2 black when it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 3 life unless they discard a card, and if you're the monarch, instead they lose 6 life unless they discard 2 cards. Pretty much no one's going to discard 2 cards at that point.
Yeah, they'll take the life loss, and that's what you want because sort of draining people's life over time is what your deck is designed to do anyway.
Yeah, I like why you put this next card in here, because it should already be in here as a mono black card.
Yes, Dauthi Voidwalker, black for a 3/2 with Shadow. It does all the things of stealing your opponent's spells, stopping their cards from going to the graveyard, but that Shadow is actually super relevant in this deck because a great way to take the Monarchy back is the traditional way with combat damage, and almost no one else is playing Shadow unless they're also playing this card.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty cool, but it can not block any cards unless they have Shadow too, so it's just there to really not be blocked.
Right. And then if you don't have that and you just need to make something else unblockable, you're in black, so you have access to Shizo Death's Storehouse, which is just a land that doesn't even enter tapped, that lets you give something fear.
Yep.
And Access Tunnel, which is sort of Rogue's Passage at home. It's a land that can make something with power 3 or less, which your commander is, unblockable for a turn, but it costs 1 less than Rogue's Passage to do that. So
and actually, 3 mana is much better to pay for a land than 4 mana. I found myself putting Rogue's Passage in a lot of decks and never activating it once.
Yeah.
Because you just have something else you'd rather do with 4 mana.
Yep. And then the last way to keep the Monarchy is just don't get hit.
Nice. How do you do that?
Disincentivize it with cards like No Mercy, a 4-mana enchantment that just says, whenever a creature successfully deals damage to you, destroy it.
I think the Gatherer version doesn't have successfully anymore, right?
Yes, it definitely does not. That's one of the words they realized was a little redundant.
Yeah, and then Mono Black actually has a propaganda type effect. It's Koskun Falls. 2 black enchant world. I think that's still the Gatherer. During your upkeep, tap target untapped creature you control, or you destroy Koskun Falls. And then no creature can attack you unless its controller pays an additional 2 mana whenever that creature attacks. Wow, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And you don't really care about tapping your creature down to keep this sort of in play because the whole point is that you shouldn't be getting attacked anyway. You don't need a blocker.
And you'll have probably some other creatures in the deck you're playing, right?
Yeah. Then, of course, if you just want more things that are land drops that can take care of this problem for you, Maze of Ith.
Very good.
Very good. And then Glacial Chasm, sort of you got to put more investment into keeping it around. It does have cumulative upkeep, pay 2 life. But it also has the words, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you, and if you can't be dealt damage, then you can't have the Monarchy taken from you.
Yeah, Glacial Chasm plus Monarchy plus this commander is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to lose a lot of life, too, so maybe find some ways to gain some life.
Yeah, maybe throw a Whip of Erebos in there, give your stuff lifelink.
Whip it up. All right, everyone, we are going to be right back talking about the other, I believe, 4 cool Transformers Decepticons cards. But before we do, a quick message from our mid-roll sponsors. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp.
So, Jimmy, you excited about the holidays?
Yeah, for the most part. But look, while this time of year is great, it does come with its own set of challenges.
Yeah, that's true. Dealing with family, work, relationships. I mean, geez, even the planning can be pretty stressful.
Yeah, and while there is no user manual for when life gets complicated, there is always the next best thing, therapy.
Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and develop healthy coping skills.
I've been seeing a therapist for years, and having someone to talk to has helped me through all sorts of difficult situations. One thing I've been learning a lot of is about patience recently. Having a child is very taxing, and going into the holidays with the extra stress, it's important to keep an even keel.
As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable.
Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist.
Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/commandzone. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/commandzone.
Ambassador Blorpity Blorp Boop, we need you at the embassy.
Finally, our negotiations with the Rum-Dudley Flumbersons may yield a lasting peace. Thanks to the skilled team of economic and political officers I hired on Indeed. With Indeed, I was able to attract, interview, and hire all in one place, making it the ideal ticket to find employees who will really stick, or as I like to call them, stickers. I found strong talent fast without breaking the embassy budget, thanks to tools like Instant Match, assessments, and of course, virtual interviews, which saved me days on hiring without any additional downloads, purchases, plugins, or Goober students.
Ambassador, the Heptapoots are attacking Blorp Prime!
Then today, our people go to war.
Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why when you sponsor a job, you only pay for quality applications from resumes in our database matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/CommandZone to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/CommandZone. Again, Indeed.com/CommandZone. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. The holidays are coming up, and that means there's plenty of shopping to do.
Now, a lot of us have friends and loved ones with pretty specific hobbies, and it can be hard to find that perfect gift.
Yeah, but with Etsy, no interest is too obscure.
Etsy has plenty of special presents for everyone on your list, and they're ready to ship for the holidays.
You can shop for jewelry, decor, or personalized gifts, and it's especially good for Magic players. They've got tons of awesome gaming accessories from custom deck boxes to incredible card altars.
We even used Etsy to make the Game Nights Live championship belt.
Now that's about fit for a champion.
With Etsy, it's easy to find gifts that are truly meaningful and for all budgets. Plus, you're always shopping directly from makers, so every purchase supports a small business.
A gift from Etsy just really feels thoughtful. And as they say, it's the thought vessel that counts.
And if they don't say that, they should, because it's a good mana rock.
New to Etsy, use code MERRY10, that's MERRY 10 at checkout for 10% off your first purchase. Again, that's code MERRY10.
Maximum value $50. Offer ends December 31st, 2022. See terms at etsy.com/terms. For gifts of all kinds, Etsy has it. Shop etsy.com.
All right, everyone, we're back. We're talking about the Transformers Decepticon cards. Doot, 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 doot. That's not the theme song.
But it was beautiful, and it should be.
Thank you. I'm going to apply, send that in maybe as a submission. Hey, guys, I think you could use some rebranding. All right, next up we got Cyclonus the Saboteur. Take it away, Jamie.
The front side, it's 2 blue-black, so 4 total for a 2/5 flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it connives, which means you draw a card, then discard a card, and it gets a +1/+1 counter if you discarded a non-land card. Then, if its power is 5 or greater, you convert it. Or you can cast it on the converted side for 7 mana total, 5 blue-black, which lets you know the backside is going to be better.
Yeah, it's Cyclonus, Cybertronian Fighter. This is the kind of thing that I would want to build with Legos growing up, is something that looks just like Cyclonus.
Oh, yeah. I tried to build just, generic starship.
Yeah, pretty
That's
cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's what Legos are for.
Exactly. This is a legendary artifact vehicle that's a 5/5. It's got living metal, and so as long as it's your turn, this vehicle is also a creature with flying. And it says, whenever Cyclonus deals combat damage to a player, convert it. If you do, there's an additional beginning phase after this phase. Whoa, text! The beginning phase includes the untap, upkeep, and draw steps. Okay, combat damage, you get another beginning phase. So untap, upkeep, draw. You basically draw another card, all your lands untap. It's kind of similar to Sword of Feast and Famine in a way.
It's sort of like that. It's very similar to Sphinx of the Second Sun, which is the only other card I can think of that specifically gives you another whole beginning phase.
Right.
Now this one does it earlier in the turn, which is great.
Now, does this card keep the 1/1 counters when it converts?
It does.
Okay.
So if you have actually gotten it to 5 power on the front side using +1/+1 counters,
5/8,
or it's an 8/8. If it's a 5/8 on the front, it's an 8/8 on the back.
Right.
So
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's it's dealing commander damage.
That's
but
right.
It's also converting every time, which is sort of part of the problem.
Right.
Whichever side of this is more interesting to you, whether you are trying to do stuff with connive or what I think is more interesting, trying to have extra beginning steps, it's only going to happen every other turn, and that's assuming that your commander survives.
And there's no way to get around that, right?
There is one way. It is double strike.
Aha!
There are not a lot of ways to do this in Dimir, but if it has double strike, you hit the first time, whichever side it's on, that ability will trigger, then it goes to hit again. The side it's on now, that ability will trigger. So that is a way to get both of these each turn.
Gotcha. So it instantly converts when the threshold is met of it deals combat damage to a player.
Yeah.
It's a trigger that goes on the stack, right?
It goes on the stack, and it resolves before you get to regular strike damage after first strike damage.
Gotcha.
So it'll be able to do both. There are not that many ways to do this, and they aren't that great rates mana-wise, but there is Fire Shrieker, which is 3 to cast, 2 to equip. Brass Knuckles, which is 4 to cast and effectively 2 to equip because it creates a copy of itself.
That costs 1, and the equipped creature has double strike as long as 2 or more equipment are attached to it.
So you want to attach both it and the copy. And then there is Grappling Hook, which costs 4 to cast and 4 to equip. These are big asks. They're also, you got to find them. It's just 3 cards in your deck. You're in good colors for artifact tutors and just any
ramp.
card tutors.
And you can ramp right into it as well. Brass
Yeah.
Knuckles, at least if you have Brass Knuckles and then like Commander's Plate or something on it, then that will be double strike as well.
Yeah, and Commander's Plate is a great way to do the other thing that you really want to do, which is get to 5 power. Because
right.
that double strike doesn't work if the front side isn't at 5 power yet. It will not be able to convert.
Yeah, and it costs 7 mana to cast on its backside, and it's going to need to deal combat damage, so you have to give it haste. So yeah, I feel like you want to cast it on the front side, quickly get its combat damage up, and then flip it.
Yeah, there are a lot of... You just sort of need some amount of equipment to really get this thing thriving at least. Hero's Blade is another card. You can play this on curve.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah, it gives +3/+2, but whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can auto-equip it for free. So that way you can cast it for the front side, paying only 4, and you have a 5 power flyer right out the gate.
Okay, so now we have this creature that is double striking, and we're going to get 2 beginning phases. So now that we have another upkeep and untap, what are some cool cards? Twilight Prophet I see on here. I haven't seen this card in a while. It's a 2/black flying. It's got Ascend, so it cares if you have the City's Blessing. And it says, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is that converted mana cost.
The next card is a Keen Duelist. It's doing a similar thing. It is 1 and a black for a 2/2 at the beginning of your upkeep. You and target opponent each reveal the top card of your library. You lose life equal to the mana value of the card the other person revealed, and then you each basically draw those cards. You put those cards into your hand. Just another way to get more card advantage, take advantage of the extra upkeep.
Yeah, and it's just 2 mana as well. Phyrexian Arena is going to trigger twice. You can play Phyrexian Arena and get 2 upkeeps. Nice.
The Scarab God is going to trigger twice.
Yeah.
If you have any zombie tokens out that you have made with it, either sort of in response to this, and you've just untapped also,
Right.
so you have mana to sort of activate it in response to its own ability.
Get, a zombie on the battlefield.
You'll have multiple instances of the Scry X and making each opponent lose X life.
Wow,
So
pretty cool.
That is a good way to actually turn this into a win condition.
Yeah, and then you've also got Xanathar Guild Kingpin. This card is very fun in this deck. Josh played it once on game nights. It's basically says at the beginning of your upkeep, you choose an opponent. Until end of turn, that player can't cast spells, and you may look at the top card of their library anytime. You can play the top card of their library, and you may spend mana as though it's mana or any color to cast spells this way.
Yeah, so let's say you had this out, your first upkeep, you sort of lock down one player, you control them, you have your hopefully second upkeep, now you have access to 2 players' decks, and you've just untapped all your mana to go through them as you wish.
I'm down with this. And then, of course, you also have cards that have activated abilities because you are untapping everything. So Arcanus the Omnipotent and Steel Overseer are both very powerful cards that tap to do cool things. Arcanus draws you 3 cards, and Steel Overseer puts a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature you control.
Yeah, which can also help you get to that crucial 5 power that you need to be doing this back and forth transform.
Now, there is one more route to take here. You called it the loot route, and looting is drawing a card and discarding a card, which is Connive.
Yeah, you could just build around that. And that is sort of here just because the other side, it either costs 7 mana or it's hard to get to.
Yeah.
If your only way of pumping the front side of this card is with its own Connive, that is going to take 3 turns on its own.
Yikes.
After you've cast your 4 mana non-hasty commander.
Yeah.
So,
Commander, why?
yeah, it's, I think that there are definitely better commanders out there in Dimir if you're trying to do some loot synergies.
Yeah.
But if the Transformers really speak to you from a flavor perspective, and this card in particular speaks to you from a flavor perspective, building around that Connive and just doing things that care about the fact that you're going to be drawing and discarding a card every turn. You could go Reanimator with it because you'll be discarding cards.
Madness, Flashback, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is, was it Sphinx of the Second Sun that also gives you another beginning phase?
It gives you another beginning phase, but you don't have another main phase after it, which is why this one is sort of better timed for that.
Right. Now, that is a mono blue card. If you want to find places to put Cyclonus the Saboteur, look at Sphinx of the Second Sun, see what decks that goes in, and then if that commander happens to have black in it, Cyclonus is your buddy, potentially, because, potentially.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got Blitzwing, Cruel Tormentor. Okay, this is an evil-sounding name, so I get it. He's a Decepticon.
It is, yes. It is also an evil effect. The front side is 5 and a black for a 6/5. At the beginning of your end step, target opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost this turn. If no life is lost this way, convert Blitzwing. And it has more than meets the eye. You can cast the back for 4 mana total, 3 and a black.
So it's actually cheaper to cast the backside. It's a 3/5 legendary artifact vehicle with living metal. As long as it's your turn, this vehicle is also a creature. And it says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose flying or indestructible at random. Blitzwing gains that ability until end of turn, and when Blitzwing deals combat damage to a player, convert it. So the front side is the powerful side. It's basically doing the thing where it creates a lot of life loss for opponents.
Yeah, there are a couple of these where the backside of the card is either a way to maybe get it 1 turn earlier,
right,
or a punishment for not doing the thing that the front side wanted you to do, which in this case, if you didn't make anyone lose life, oh man, sorry, you got to go to the back and start again.
Yeah, whoops. And you better hope that you can have someone that you can hit with randomly flying or indestructible too.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this because this ability, it's not, by the way, the player that lost, right? Like, target opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost this turn. So that player is specific, right? You're trying to hit someone, deal a lot of damage, and then it's going to double that life loss.
Yeah, it's not like Megatron where it's counting the life that all opponents have lost. It's just, if everyone lost 3 life, at the end of the turn, you target 1 person, that person loses 3 more life.
Gotcha. It's not 9, it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the one-shot abilities out of nowhere where you can kill someone basically with 1 hit.
Yeah, there are a few cards that just have the text loses half their life on them. One of them is a new card out of 40k. It is Shard of the Nightbringer. Yes, it costs 8, but it kills a player. So
when the ETBs, if you cast it, so you can't reanimate this thing, I know what you're thinking, in mono black, target opponent loses half their life, rounded up, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. They go to their end step, Blitzwing goes, ha-ha! Here's the other half.
That's the other half. Peer into the Abyss, we've already talked about it. This time you're targeting someone else.
Yep.
Make them lose half their life, draw half their deck. You don't care that they drew half their deck. They're out of the game.
There's Blood Tribute. Now, you do have to have a vampire for this to kick it. It's 4 black sorcery kicker, tap and untap vampire you control. Target opponent loses half of his or actually you don't need a vampire.
Yeah, you need a vampire to kick it, but you do not care about kicking.
That's right. It's a good point. So it's just 6 mana. Target opponent loses half of their life rounded up, and then if you do manage to kick it with a vampire, you gain the life.
Mm-hmm. Fraying Omnipotence is an option that is a little more dangerous because it is 5 mana for each player loses half their life.
Ooh.
Then discards half the cards in their hand. Then sacrifices half the creatures they control.
Okay.
Round up each time. So you better hope that you have another creature in addition to your commander when you cast this, or else that's going to backfire horribly.
Or someone removes it in response to you casting it if you only have 2. Yeah, that will also backfire horribly.
But, you can't kill everyone with this, even though it makes everyone lose half their life because the commander can only target 1 opponent, but still you're killing at least 1 player with this, or at least on that turn.
This effect has been around a lot, actually, because you got Scourge of the Skyclaves, which is more recent from Zendikar Rising. It's a 1 in the black, but kicker 4 in the black. And if you cast a spell, if it was kicked, so that's 7 mana total, each player loses half their life rounded up. So that's pretty cool. And it's got some funny text about what its power and toughness is, but we don't need to read that.
Nope.
Yeah, so big life loss. We've already talked about this earlier with Megatron. This is another deck that you want to create big life loss because you can do it again and hopefully kill someone.
Yeah, same cards are good here. Gary, Exsanguinate,
Torment
the classics.
The classics, aka you never want to see it played against you. Mm-hmm. Now, this is an effect that actually has existed before.
Yeah,
except it's specifically, it's been actually better in the past.
Yeah. It has at least been less fragile in the past. Wound Reflection. It's an enchantment. It has the exact same cost, and it just says at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn.
Cool. So it happens way more often. It's going to drain people way faster, but it's not target opponent. So Wound Reflection will be a way to kill everyone at the table if you can make them all lose enough life.
Yeah, I think it's a smart decision that if this effect is going to be playable in the command zone, it is only 1 opponent at a time and not each turn.
Yeah. You also got Warlock class, which is one of those cool enchantments that levels up, like in Dungeons and Dragons. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature, it's by the way just 1 black for an enchantment, and it says at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, each opponent loses 1 life. That's not a big deal. It levels up for 1 in the black for another effect that mills cards basically and gets 1 back to your hand. And then the last one is 7 mana. So total, this is 9 mana total, but over 3 installations. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn. Very cool.
Yeah. And then we have Archfiend of Despair. It is an 8-drop. You can reanimate this one, no reason not to. It has flying. It says your opponents can't gain life. And at the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost this turn. It's just wound reflection on a big demon.
Yep. Very cool. And this is 8 mana. So if you've noticed, by the way, these cost a lot of mana to get these effects out.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have to get Blitzwing on the other side, you have to be able to hit people with it. And it's random. It's a coin flip whether or not it gets indestructible or flying. So again, same cards that we've heard before. Shizo, Death Storehouse, and Axis Tunnel are both ways to give it unblockable. And same with Manifold Key.
Yeah. Every so often you might have an artifact you want to untap, or you can do basically the same rate as Access Tunnel, make a creature of any size unblockable. Because, yeah, sometimes either flying or indestructible isn't going to be enough.
Yeah, but it's also cool because on its backside, Blitzwing is, on its other side, the front side, it's a 6/5. And you can also give it unblockable as long as you're not using Access Tunnel.
Yeah.
But that is good because you want to do that. And you'll deal more damage and make them lose life. Because you don't have to one-shot people to play this deck. We should make that very clear.
Yeah, if you want to build a combat damagey version of this, doubling that at end of turn, that is a very viable strategy.
And this actually works well with the other, what was the name of it? Starscream, that makes people lose life when you draw cards. And that's mono black as well, right?
Yeah, this would definitely go well, or that would definitely go well in the 99.
In the 99, yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. I did it.
And vice versa.
Is it mono black?
Yeah.
I've already lost track.
Both are.
It rhymes the way I just said. Okay. I'm checking. It's mono black. Because he's power hungry. That is a mono black thing.
Yeah.
By the way, if you've noticed, the color pie is very strictly adhered to with these cards. Okay, moving on now. We have Flame War, Brash, Veteran.
The front side, it is 1 black-red, so it's Rakdos. For a 3/2, you can sacrifice another artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on Flame War and convert it, activate only as a sorcery.
Okay.
Or you can pay 1 and discard your hand, put all cards exiled with intel counters on them into your hand.
Intel counters? It said nothing about intel counters on the front side. In fact, it must say it on the back. By the way, you can cast this for more than meets the eye as just black-red. And it comes in as a 2/1 living metal, Menace Death Touch vehicle. Whenever Flame War deals combat damage to a player, exile that many cards from the top of your library face down, and then put an intel counter on each of them, and then you convert Flame War. Okay, so you want to deal damage with the backside. The cool, sweet motorcycle side, by the way. What a cool motorcycle.
Yeah, nothing could go wrong.
Nothing could go wrong. Also, just it's the coolest card at the table because it's a sweet motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then when it's on the other side, you can pay 1 to discard your hand, and then you get all the exiled cards with intel counters on them back to your hand. So it's kind of like a wheel.
Yeah. This card's also, some of these you can definitely very easily flip them and then flip them back in a single turn to sort of do both of the things.
Right.
Other ones you can't, but this being one of those is definitely great that you can sort of bring it to the front, cycle your hand for the intel counters cards, and then sack an artifact to get it onto the backside to do that again next turn.
Right. There's a lot of ways to do it. You can play Flame War first, have no cards in your hand or whatever. It doesn't actually matter. Play Flame War first, sack an artifact, convert it. If you have haste, it can now attack with Menace and Death Touch. You'll get some intel counters. It's going to flip back. If you get extra combats, you can just do it again. So there is ways to get it to trigger a bunch.
Yeah, and it gets at least 1 power bigger every time because of the +1/+1 counter.
Oh, right. From sacrificing the artifact to convert it.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like this a lot.
And I think that's what you want to do. You want to get big hits with this card. Sort of the more cards you are exiling with intel counters on them, the better it feels to discard your hand. And,
now you're drawing 10, 12 cards or whatever, right?
Yeah. You're probably going to be in a heavy artifact deck, so a card like Cranial Plating is a great way to get that power super high.
+1/+0 for each artifact you control.
Blackblade Reforged, +1/+1 for each land you control, and only costs 3 to equip to a legendary creature, which this being your commander certainly is.
Yep. Nettle Cyst, it's great. It gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control with a nice equip cost of 2, and it's a living weapon, so it comes in as a creature too. So you could just, use that first should you not want to, and it's nice to always get another body on the board.
Yeah. Then same with Bone Horde, 4 mana for a living weapon equipment. Quote creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards, so not just your own.
And equip cost of 2.
Yeah, that's not so bad. And if you're going to be discarding your hand a lot, then there are probably going to be a lot of creature cards in graveyards. That one can definitely scale.
That's right. Okay, and now we have ways to deal 3 times the amount of damage. This is Red's specialty. There's Jessica Thrice Reborn, which does it with her her 0 activation ability. And then Fiery Emancipation, which just does it to any time a creature or source you control would deal damage, it triples it.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, those cards, you do not need to just be tripling the damage from this for those cards to win you the game, but they certainly help you dig to the cards that will win you the game.
Yeah, that's right.
In conjunction with these.
If you're going to be trying to be drawing like, 7 or 8 cards every time with the intel counters, then you definitely can afford to play Fiery Emancipation and be like, I can't play this right now. Let's keep going. Let's keep drawing.
Right.
Discard this 6-drop so I can just get those intel counters going.
Yep. Now, you definitely want to be able to flip it to the back every turn so that you can exile a bunch of cards to do it again. Treasure are, of course, the best expendable artifacts out there these days.
Right.
There's nothing bad about them.
It's true. There really isn't. They're just good all around, except when someone else casts a Dockside Extortionist. And now we're just into a whole nother conversation.
Yep. But let's not talk about that one here today.
Yes,
let's talk about Professional Facebreaker, a card that I think is just growing in many people's esteem.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Especially, again, creature-focused combat decks.
2 and a red for a 2/3 menace. Whenever one of your creatures deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token, or whenever one or more of your creatures, I should say. You can sack treasures to Impulse Draw, just does everything. Grim Hireling.
Oh, yeah. Grim Hireling's so good.
Another great one, Menace and Death Touch on your commander. You really are probably going to be getting through, at least once it's big enough.
Yeah.
And this one, whenever you hit a player with one or more of your creatures, you get 2 treasure tokens.
Yowza. And you can also just use those for mana, by the way. Did we mention that treasure tokens are just straight good?
They do everything. And with Grim Hireling, you can also use them as removal for some reason.
Yeah, that's so random. Actually, not that random. It's like treasures are the greatest, apparently.
Yeah.
All right, you also have, and you can play, by the way, like Zorn and all those cards of double treasures if you really just want to always have treasures around. Go for it.
Yeah, these cards have been out for a bit. They've been public information for a bit. And of course, now you can go get them yourself. But all of the early sort of lists online for this card were treasure theme.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go. All right, next up, we have Prize Statue. Also does the same thing. It's just a 2-mana artifact that you want to sacrifice. It's kind of like Ichor Wellspring, but instead of drawing cards, you make treasure tokens. Mm-hmm. How very good.
And then as long as you're sacrificing stuff anyway, Scrap Trawler, we've talked about it. It's a great way to just get stuff back. Not the treasures, of course, but other things.
Yeah, your commander has a sacrifice outlet for artifacts, so you definitely want Scrap Trawler, Junk Diver, Mirror Retriever, all that good stuff.
All that stuff. And then Oni Cult Anvil is a great way that just every time you sack something, as long as you're doing it on your own turn, which this is a sorcery speed sack outlet anyway, you will get an artifact construct to replace it. So you are never going to not have fodder. As long as
and it also sacks artifacts to deal 1 to everyone and give you 1. However, this only happens once per turn, so you can only trigger it once. But it is still basically replacing the artifact that went away with another 1/1 you can sacrifice.
Yeah.
Goblin Welder, I love this card. A way to swap in artifacts from your graveyard to the graveyard and also do it to other people. You can like unequip a sword on something, which is kind of funny. You can replace it with another random artifact in the graveyard.
Yeah. No, if you're discarding your hand all these times, in addition to sacking artifacts, a lot of stuff's going to be in your graveyard.
Yep.
Duretti, we talked about it earlier. It is just always another great way to get some big artifact or just some utility artifact you really need back from the graveyard.
Okay, now let's talk about some discard synergy, because you're right. Because I think you don't want to just sit there and wait to discard till you have 0 cards in hand. You're probably going to be cycling through a lot, and you're going to want to get extra value for those discards. So Bone Miser, just an incredible card that gives you benefits for discarding creatures, lands, or non-creature non-lands. You either get a zombie, you gain some mana, black, or you draw a card. And then there's also Surly Badgersaur, which every time you discard a creature card, you get a +1/+1 counter on it. And then when you discard the land, you get a treasure. And then when you discard a non-creature non-land, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So they both, again, care about the 3 things: creature, land, non-creature non-land.
Yep. Then you have Archfiend of Ifnir, which just, if you are cycling through, discarding and redrawing hands of 6, 7 cards, this is just, your opponents can't have creatures until this thing is removed.
Yeah, whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. That's just game over.
It is. Containment Construct, a great newish card out of Neon Dynasty. Whenever you discard a card, you can exile it, and if you do, you can just play it this turn. That basically turns discard your hand into don't actually discard your hand.
Yeah, and it's also May, so you discard 5 cards. You can exile, let's say, 2 of them, and the rest of them get discarded. Those, if it's a land, you can play it. Pretty good.
Yeah, leave the ones with Graveyard Synergy in there.
Yeah, and then I guess if you're going to be playing Madness cards in discard decks, again, Black-Red has a lot of discard going on. Anya Falconwrath is a good deck list to look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Call it to the Netherworld, which you can cast as a Madness of 0 to return black creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And then Big Game Hunter, which for madness you pay a black, and it enters the battlefield and kills a creature with power 4 or greater. So it's only hunting big game here, Jamie.
Then, of course, if you have a ton of cards in your graveyard, which hopefully things have gone well for you and you do, Underworld Breach is just such a powerful sort of, I'm going to have my big explosive turn now, please card.
Yeah.
You can just cast all of them out of your graveyard, not literally, but enough to win you the game. Hopefully, you'll have enough that you can do the exiling 3 cards per spell you cast.
Yeah. Because you're just going to be wheeling and wheeling and wheeling. I'd rather have Underworld Breach than Dockside Extortionist if you're talking about 1 and a red powerful spells. Because at least you have to pay the mana.
Yes, I would both rather run it for a moral sense, and I would rather play against it for a maybe I still have a chance.
But every time I play Dockside, I finally start winning the game, Jamie.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah.
How do you feel, though? How do you feel at the end of that game?
I feel like I'm extorting my own happiness sometimes as a result.
I agree.
All right, we have one last Decepticon card. It is Slicer, Hired Muscle.
The front is 4 and a red for a 3/4. It has more than meets the eye, of course. Double strike and haste. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of Slicer until end of turn.
Ooh.
If you do, untap Slicer, goad it, and it can't be sacrificed this turn. If you don't, convert it. And that more than meets the eye cost is 2 and a red, so for 3 mana you get the back.
Oh man, maybe this is cooler than the motorcycle. It's Slicer, High Speed Antagonist. Would you ever name a character an antagonist in their title, publicly known title?
Oh, I mean, in a world where a character is named hero protagonist, I think that a high-speed antagonist is the perfect foil to that.
It is indeed. So it's the 3/2 legendary artifact vehicle with living metal, first strike, and haste. Whenever Slicer deals combat damage to a player, convert it at end of combat. So for 2 and a red, you get a 3/2 hasty creature that just straight up can convert that turn.
Yeah, I think this is sort of a lot like the other, where the backside is sort of a way to get it out early the first time, and then a bit of a punishment every time after that.
Right.
Although, if it's sent back to the command zone, then it's another good way to get it out early. But later in the game, everyone can probably block a 3/2.
Yeah, the nice thing, though, is that it will, right? It's really easy to see the pattern here. Cast it for 2 and a red, hit someone with it early, and then it becomes this front side that goes to someone else at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep. So early in the game, on turn 2 or even, right, getting this out and having it swinging around, it's not going to die very often.
No, it is
until someone starts putting out some blockers, but it's a double strike haster.
Yeah, they have to be really resilient blockers. I mean, a 3/4 double strike haste that is attacking one of your opponents 4 times per turn cycle.
Yikes.
That's a lot of damage.
Yeah. So what can you do here with double strike?
My favorite thing you can do here, with just the fact of giving it out, and double strike will certainly add to some of these, is putting equipment on this guy. Because when you give the creature away, you still control the equipment. So any triggers that go off when it attacks or when it deals damage, you still get the benefits.
Oh, okay. So Sword of the Animist is one that a lot of people are familiar with. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, you can search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Now, when the opponent gains control of it, they can re-equip that equipment now, right?
No. You control the equipment. The only thing they control is the creature. You get to make all decisions regarding that equipment. Now, it's not your turn, so you can't move it around, but why would you want to? You've both made the goaded creature bigger, and you are going to get the land.
Nice.
Staff of Titania is a new card that does a similar but different thing. 2 mana to cast. Equipped creature gets +X/+X, where X is the number of forests you control.
You'll have 0 of those in this deck.
Until equipped creature attacks, and you get a 1/1 green forest dryad land creature token.
Wow. Okay, so you swing at them, you make a 1/1 Dryad Arbor, basically, and the next time it swings, it gets +1/+1, and then you make another land, which is just ramping you in mono red. This is cool.
I mean, let's say the only permanents sort of that we're calculating with are the commander and this. You attack with it. You get one of them. It has +1/+1. The next player attacks. Now it has +2/+2.
Ooh.
The next player gets it. And each of these times, it's getting bigger. You are getting ramped.
Yeah.
You are getting blockers, which you will probably need because your commander is
out there.
It can't hit you,
people.
but people are mad at you.
Yeah, that's really cool. I also like Moon Silver Spear. It's a 4-mana equipment, 4 mana to equip, and it says whenever equipped creature attacks, you make a 4/4 with flying. Pretty cool.
Yep, that's you that makes it. Whenever there's another card that's new out of Warhammer, Inquisitorial Rosette.
Great name.
It is 2 mana to cast and 3 to equip. It says, whenever equipped creature attacks, create a 2/2 white Astartes warrior creature token with vigilance that's attacking. So I believe what happens here is you make it, it's not attacking because it's not your turn, so it's just there. Then attacking creatures gain menace until end of turn. That does still happen.
Yeah, that's really good
Yeah.
because now it's got menace, double strike, haste.
Yeah.
Oh man, no one's going to want to block this thing.
No, absolutely not. The fact that it doesn't say attacking creatures you control, I'm not saying they literally had this interaction in mind, but it is definitely
Yeah, when they
beneficial.
made that Warhammer card, they were definitely thinking about that Transformers card.
Oh yeah, all the universes beyond take place in the same universe.
Yeah, it's just universe beyond.
Yep.
And there's Argentum armor, 6 mana, equips for 6, but when it attacks, you destroy target permanent. Also gives it +6/+6, so that is now a 9/10 double strike.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Now this one I love, Umezawa's Jite, 2 to cast, 2 to equip. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, put 2 charge counters on it, and then you can remove them to do any number of things, removal,
Right.
life gain, pump itself. This creature has double strike. You are going to be getting what?
12 total counters when it gets back to you if you didn't swing with it.
Yeah, 16 total if it can attack on every player's turn.
Jeez, that is nuts.
That is pretty insane.
And you gotta do this at instant speed so you can get rid of blockers on the way. This may be the best card in the deck.
It very well could be. I mean, you can make it so that your opponent's blocks are never good.
Right. And so they don't want to block, but then they're going to get more charge counters. Or you can just straight up take 2 off, give a creature -2/-2, or
Yeah.
pump it at the last moment. Oh, man.
Yeah, you could very well kill someone with your own commander damage on someone else's turn because they goatedly had to attack with it.
The nice thing about this card, too, is that it has a haste on it. So if it does get removed, the reason that the Paco and Haldan deck is so annoying is because the creature has haste, comes right back, even if you're paying more mana for it, but it gets the gravy train rolling all over again.
Yeah. Then, we have a few equipment that can draw cards. There's Strength Testing Hammer, which is actually a new card out of Unfinity.
But legal in our format.
Yep. You have to roll well, but it's basically you roll some dice and add that much power to the creature, which again, double striking creature, getting more powerful, great.
Very good.
But then if it has the greatest power, you draw a card. You'll be the one doing that. And then Mask of Memory, assuming this thing is able to actually connect and not get blocked. That double strike, you will draw 2 cards, discard a card.
Each
then
time it
draw
hits.
2 cards, then discard a card.
Yep. Komenu Battle Armor is a new equipment dog. You don't hear that too often. It's one of the cards that it comes in as a 2/2 creature, and then you can reconfigure it for 4. And then whenever Komenu Battle Armor or equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, goad each creature that player controls, which is the perfect way to not have to get attacked by them.
Exactly. Make sure that you do not suffer the wrath of all these people who are probably reasonably mad at you for what you're doing.
Yeah, and Komenu does also give it +2/+2 and menace. So
Yes.
again, very, very good there.
Yeah. Then, of course, it's good with just all the swords of something and something else. Sword
Yeah.
of Feast and Famine, Sword of Hearth and Hoe. You know what they are.
Yep.
Just
Find the ability you like the most. Probably Fire and Ice would be the best in this deck, I think.
Yeah.
Feast and Famine 2 is obviously very good, but you don't care so much about untapping your lands that many times in someone else's turn.
The card draw and the removal potential off Fire and Ice is just pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And of course, just, I don't know, pick the colors in your meta that show up the most and give protection from those colors.
Yeah, it's a good point. And then, of course, everyone's going to want to try and kill this thing. So there are, of course, ways to do it and protect it. You have Dark Steel Plate, gives it indestructible. Champion's Helm gives it a legendary creature hexproof. Same with Swiftfoot Boots. And Whisper Silk Cloak, very good. Gives it unblockable, but also Shroud. So not as good if you're trying to equip just it with stuff. You need to be able to move the equipment off to give it that.
Yeah, you want Whisper Silk Cloak to be the last thing that you're putting on, and you need to be content with the fact this is truly the last thing that I'm going to put this on until it gets removed.
Commander's Plate's really good too because it's a mono-colored commander, and Commander's Plate says equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has protection from each color that's not in your commander's color identity. So that's 4 straight-up colors.
It's 4 colors, and
Pretty
it's
cool.
turning your commander into a 6-power Death Toucher that's attacking every single turn of the cycle.
Yeah. Now, we don't have a white in this deck, so you don't have a lot of those amazing cards like Sigardus 8 and stuff, but there are still a couple of effects that do that sort of free equip cost thing.
We have a Hammer of Nazan. It's 4 to cast, and when it ETBs, it automatically attaches to something, and then as long as it's out, all your other equipment attached to something automatically when they enter the battlefield.
Cheating equip
Yeah,
cost.
it
Very
also
good.
gives indestructible, which again, people want to blow up Slicer, stop them.
Yeah, Brass Squire and Kazu's Toll Collector are both ways to also just get equipment on things.
Yeah, because
And Kazu's cool. Actually, I like this a lot. Can you explain what Kazu's Toll Collector does?
Yeah, it's 2 and a red for a 3/2, and you can pay 0 to attach target equipment you control to it.
Cool.
Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So basically, you have all these equipment out. Let's say something has gone horribly wrong. Your commander is not accessible to you. At least you can just pay nothing to put all those equipment with super powerful triggered abilities onto this one guy.
Yeah, let's not forget that all the equipment by themselves still do a lot of damage, and they can do a lot, even if it's not on your commander.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep. Then, just sort of one more thing you can be doing, because you know your opponents are going to be attacking each other because you are forcing them to do so. There are a few cards, some of them pretty recent, that just sort of give creatures that are attacking your opponents, whoever controls them, sort of bonuses. So there's Death Kiss.
Yeah, I'll read this. 5 and a red for a 5/5. Whenever a creature an opponent controls attacks one of your opponents, so that includes your commander, right? Double its power until end of turn. And then you can monstrosity it for XX red, and you monstrosity X. Basically, if you pay 2 into X, then it gets +2/+2 counters. +1/+1 counters, oh my gosh. And then when Death Kiss becomes monstrous, very good here, goad up to X target creatures your opponents control. So you get to make it big, but also do the thing, which is goading other people and stopping them from attacking you and making them hurt each other.
Yeah. Then you have a Frontier Warmonger, which gives all the creatures that are attacking your opponents menace when they attack. Menace is just really makes your blocks difficult with Slicer coming at you. That double strike is rough. And then a new card out of the Brothers War Precons.
Oh, that's right. This card's really sweet.
Yeah, we have Blast Furnace Hellkite. It costs 9 mana, but it has Artifact Offering.
So you can cast a spell as though it had flash by sacrificing an artifact, and then you pay the difference in mana cost between this and the sacrifice artifact. So if you had a 4-drop equipment out from 7 red, this now becomes a 3 red spell. Flash.
Yeah, so in that scenario, you would be paying 5, and what you get is a 5/5 flying double strike that says creatures attacking your opponents have double strike.
Woo!
Now again, your commander already does, but this is more in the spirit of everyone should be attacking each other. You will probably want to have more goad stuff in the deck, things like Disrupt Decorum, and this is just a great way to really make your opponents finish each other off.
Okay, very good. And then, of course, we got to mention Jessica one more time. We'll read her 0 here because it matters. Choose target creature until your next turn. If that creature would deal combat damage to one of their opponents, your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. So play Jessica, 0 on your commander, give your card away until your next turn. That's 3 turns now. Your commander, that card's going to deal triple damage.
Yeah, if you've given your commander 1 more power at least, and you've made it unblockable with, say, Whisper Silk Cloak.
Yeah.
Everyone will be forced to kill everyone else to commander damage. I guess eventually it gets down to the 1v1 and then...
Yikes.
Well, actually, maybe then you're screwed and you die to your own commander damage?
Yeah, because you wouldn't activate Jessica if it's 1v1 at that point.
Yeah.
Because then it would have to attack you and it gets... Well, it's only your opponents though, right? If you deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple
perfect.
damage.
Okay.
So Jessica's fine.
Accidentally a genius idea.
Yeah, accidentally? No, not accidentally at all, Jamie. You covered the crap out of this card, and it's another mono red deck now that I kind of want to build.
Yeah, I love Goad. It has become sort of the bane of the office, the extent to which I love Goad. So I am probably going to end up building
You're
this guy.
probably goading too? Okay. All right. To the listeners, what did you think about that pun and also of these new Decepticon commanders? What do you think about them compared to the Autobots? Who wins the war in terms of card value overall? Are you going to build any of them? I might. That motorcycle looked pretty cool with the intel counters. I also really like this last card as well. But of course, if we didn't think of any synergistic cards that you can come up with, let us know in the comments below. Tweet at us, tell us on Twitter or the YouTube comments, or send me a DM. Whatever you want to do, go ahead and do it. And of course, if you want to pick up any of the cards that we talked about today, including these new commanders, whether you want their regular frames or their cool, what are they?
Shattered glass
frames. I just call them all showcase frames now. Head on over to cardkingdom.com/command. That's our affiliate link. You have an incredibly huge selection from a warehouse filled with cards, and all of them in different styles as well as qualities. So if you're looking to make a budget build, you can choose, I just want to get some scrapped up cards. It's going to cost me way less. Don't care. That's the style I'm rolling with, and I'm going to put myself on a budget for a deck. Cardkingdom.com/command is a great place to do that. You can put your entire deck list into a single cart, hit order, and it gets to you all at once. Much better than having to tear open 20 envelopes, forget if you even ordered a card or if it got lost in the mail. Much more secure. They got great customer service as well. So check it out. You support the show that way. And of course, when you get those cards, put them into an Ultra Pro sleeve. Or head on over to ultrapro.com/command, see what amazing deal they have in their store right now. Get some stuff off. They have all sorts of crazy things, Jamie. If you want to get those cards that make it look like it's a graded card, they've got those magnetic cases for you. They have playmats from different games as well, not just Magic. So there's a huge selection on ultrapro.com/command. Very often it's on sale. Go check it out. Get some stuff to clean up your cards, to keep your cards safe.
Pre-cleaned for your convenience. Never got dirty in the first place.
Exactly. Straight out the factory and into your hand. All right, cleanup step. Big thanks to our amazing team here at the Command Zone. We got Damon Lenz, Arthur Meadowcroft, Lady Danger, Manson Lung, Craig Blanchett, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Patrick Nan, Jordan Pridgeon, Sam Waldo, Gaurav Galati, Jamie Block, who's next to me, Mitch Trafford, and Evan Limburger. And of course, we have 3 brand new team members, so please give a warm welcome to Gabriel Pozos, Megan Yip, and Eric Lem.
Woo.
And then there's that Josh Lee Kwai guy.
Yeah.
Of Game Nights fame. We got to shout him out as well. Thanks, Josh, for doing everything you do around here. We really appreciate it.
We love you, man.
Yeah, we love you. All right, Autobots. Oh, no. What's the Decepticons phrase?
I realized I don't know, and then I caught myself in the car this morning trying to think what is the opposite of rollout.
Roll up. What is it? Decepticons.
Stay in.
Stay in. That's so lame. I'm pretty sure it's actually something like way more intense, like something
I'm
about
sure it's like
an eternal war or ravageries. I don't know, something.
Yeah.
It sounds like a mono red board wipe is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much, and Jamie, thanks for joining us today on the show. We hope to see you next time on the Command Zone podcast. Peace out.
Bye.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.